But in South Africa, anybody who's pregnant who is eligible to have a self-managed abortion at home by themselves can actually get the service. There are a few exclusion criteria. If there's any suspicion that you might have an ectopic pregnancy, for example, or you're not sure about your period, or if you don't have access to a nearby health facility that runs 24 hours, just in case there's a complication that occurs, the service has to be safe and there has to be access to emergency help should there be a need. First of all, before you actually call any abortion facility, you should probably just check if it's legit. The easiest way to see if it's not legit, they will say things like 30 minutes procedure, pain-free, same-day service. Your unregistered or unsafe providers would be located in a mall. They want to meet you in a park, in a car. So there isn't much information and they're not able to answer a lot of questions. If you call, they need to ascertain how far pregnant you are because they need to know if they can help you or not. They will direct you to a healthcare provider who will then ask you questions related to your pregnancy. You'll answer a few questions that try to exclude a certain risk factors. What happens next is that you get the pills. It's either you collect or you get a delivery of the pills. They tell you what kind of pills they are, what they look like, how they're supposed to be taken, and what you expect once you've taken them, and how long after you've taken them should you expect anything to happen. We use two types of pills. One is called misoprostol. It's small, it's white, it's hexagon, and it's got a light in the middle. They usually call cytotec, that's what we have in South Africa. The other one is mifepristone, it's a little bit more expensive. It's also white, it's a small pill also. Some of them are a little bit big. The mifepristone it comes in a single packet, it's just one pill, which you swallow like any other pill. But your misoprostol, they come in a pack. People use different dosing, but the most common one is 4 pills that you take at least 24 hours after taking the first pill, which is mifepristone. Put them under the tongue, you wait for them to dissolve, and once they've dissolved, you can just drink water. You don't drink or eat anything while they dissolve. They dissolve quite fast, but usually we tell people to wait for 30 minutes, and once they're fully dissolved, you can just swallow whatever is in the mouth or just wash it down with water. Once you take the pills, you'll get pains, you'll get bleeding. You might get some of the side effects from the medications like vomiting, diarrhea, a bit of fever. But you will bleed for a couple of days. Obviously the first day is probably going to be the heaviest. It could literally take some people 3 days to bleed, and after that they just spot. The people can bleed a bit longer, depending obviously on your anatomy. And some people do pregnancy tests after 2 weeks, which should be negative. By then your abortion should be complete. The one thing that will definitely happen is that you will continue to bleed. Some people might have pains, and they might also still feel pregnant. So people might still experience pregnancy signs even after the 2 weeks have passed. The other thing is that you may take the pills, but the bleeding doesn't happen, or the bleeding is much less than what you were told to expect. Some people don't bleed at all, and that could actually tell you that the abortion pills did not work for a number of reasons. Either the pregnancy is too big, or you have an ectopic pregnancy, or the dosing for the pregnancy was just not adequate.